Okay, fifth period. So we didn't get to finish our calculator practice on Wednesday. Before you guys start up your classwork time, I thought I'd go ahead and go through the things we didn't get to. We did get to talk about derivatives and integrals, so I'll leave that to you. But we didn't get to talk about points of intersection. So let's go ahead and I'll demonstrate this for you. Now, if you want to follow along on the calculator as I do this so you can practice it and kind of get used to the keystrokes, feel free to have the video paused here and then go get the calculators and then grab a seat. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So if you want to find where two functions intersect, well, the first thing we got to do is we got to put some functions into our calculator. So it says first step is press y equals, so that's what I'll do here. And then it says type in the first function in the y1 space and type in the second function in the y2 space. So I'll just make up some functions here. Let's say I have x, say I have x squared minus 4. And then my other function, let's say it's going to be 2x plus 1. Okay, so I want to find out where those two graphs cross each other. So after we type them in, it says press graph, so we can actually see the graph. And there's the x squared minus 4. There's the 2x plus 1. As you can see, they intersect each other twice. It says now to find the points where they intersect, we're going to press second. Then we're going to press trace. And it's pretty clear what we're going to choose. We're going to choose where it says intersect there. So if you type 5, it takes you right to it. At that point, the directions say use the arrow key to scroll the cursor near to the point of intersection. Now there's two different points of intersection, so just pick the one you want to do. I'm going to go over here to the one on the right. So if I want to find out where those points cross, I'm going to put my point as close as I can to that. Now, we have an estimate of what they would be here, but to get an exact, what we're going to do is we're going to push enter 3 times. Now the reason we're pushing enter 3 times is because it's asking us, do we want this function in the top left to be the first curve? We say yes, so we enter. And then it asks us, do you want this curve to be the next one that we look at? And the answer is yes. And then it says, okay, so now it says guess where they're crossing, and the answer is yes. We're going to take a guess. So you don't need to know all that. All you have to really do is just push enter 3 times. And now you can see that this is our exact value where they cross. Now if you wanted to find out where the other one crosses, well, then you would just repeat that process starting by this step here where you press second. You would push second, trace, intersect, scroll next to that point, and enter 3 times. Okay. Now the next thing that is kind of helpful to know how to do is to find where a function equals a certain value. So, let's say I had the function e to the x power equals y, right? And I want to find out, well, when does e to the x equal 3? What x value would give me that? Well, it's kind of a pain in the butt to solve. Actually, it's really not that hard to solve that one. But sometimes you end up with some equations that are pretty crazy. So how about, matter of fact, I didn't notice this, but I actually have an example right here. So if I have 2 to the x plus 4x minus 5, and I want to find out where it equals 1, how can I do that? In other words, if I have 2 to the x plus 4x minus 5, I want to find out what value of x would give me 1. Okay. Well, we're going to do it actually in the same way we did the points of intersection. What we're going to do is we're going to graph this function, and then we're going to graph the line y equals 1, and we're going to find where they cross. And the place where they cross will actually end up being actually end up giving you the x value that you need. So let's go ahead and do that. So it says press y equals. It says type in the function in the y1 space and the y value in the y2 space. So I'm going to type this into the y1 space and this into the y2 space. So we have, and no, it doesn't matter if you type the function in y2 and the value in y1, just so long as you actually do type it in separate spots, you'll be good. So there's my function, and I want to find when it equals 1, so I'm going to put 1 in the y2 space. And then I'm going to push graph. So that there looks to me like it's the graph of the function. And that flat line that just traced across the screen, that's the value y equals 1. So right about here is where the function equals 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press, follow my instructions here. It says press second, trace, intersect, and following the same steps above, we're just going to scroll next to where they cross, and we're going to push enter 3 times, and they intersect at 1, 1. Of course, your y value should equal 1, right? Because that's what we made it equal. But what we're interested in here is what x value is it? And the answer is actually a pretty nice answer. It's 1. All right. The last thing I want to do, don't clear that. I want you guys to leave that on the calculator. The last thing I want to show you guys how to do is how to store a value. Now, on the AP exam, they always want you guys to get answers correct to like the thousandth place. In other words, 3 numbers past the decimal. Now, a lot of times in the middle of a problem, you end up with a number, and you need to use that number in another step. And that number's some really long, weird, funky-looking decimal. So what you do is you write it down on your paper, and then you clear your calculator, and you move on to the second step. But the problem is when you write that down, you have to round it off. And every time you round it off, you lose some accuracy. So what you're really doing is you're plugging in a number that is now not quite right, which makes your final answer even less quite right. So we don't like to round in the middle of a problem if we don't have to. So what we can do is we can have the calculator store the value that we want and actually have it use the exact value so we don't end up rounding in the middle. So I'm going to show you how to store a value into the calculator. So it says here to do this exercise, you'll need to pick up right where you left off in the previous exercise, and that's why I told you guys not to clear that yet. So first of all, we're going to push enter, and then we're going to push STO with the arrow. That's down here in the bottom left, so we're going to push that. And that ANS, that stands for answer. So it says the answer is going to be what? And we get to pick what letter we use. Now, I'm going to have us use this button, which will make it automatically be X. Okay, and all I have to do for that is push enter. Now, what that does is, when you see that 1 pop up there, that means now the calculator will treat an X like it's 1 anytime you type it. So, for instance, if you guys were to type the expression 2x plus 1, even though we see a variable x there, the calculator does not see a variable x. The calculator sees what we stored x to be. The calculator actually sees that as 2 times 1 plus 1. That would be 3, right? So let's push enter and see that. And there it is. So now the calculator knows that that x value is a 1. And just to kind of demonstrate to you guys that you don't have to use x, you could use any letter. There is this green alpha button here on the calculator, and if you click on that, don't do it yet, but if you click on that, you can see above every button there's a green letter like A, B, C, D, and all that. You can make any value you want to. Now, why would you want to use a different letter than x? Well, sometimes you want to store more than one number. So I'll show you how to do that. So this time I'm going to store 3 under the value R for my first name, Russell. How's that? So I'm going to push store, and then I'm going to push alpha, and I'm going to find out which button has an R on it. Now I can't really see it very good on my projector, so I got to go to my desk here and look at it. Where's the R at? It looks like it's on the times button, so it's right down here. You see the little green R above the times button. So there's that. I'm going to go ahead and push enter. And that means now that the variable R is 3. So now if I wanted to figure out, like for instance, what is 3R squared minus 2? So I would put 3 alpha R. Oh, that's M. Let's go back and delete that. Alpha R squared. I don't know what I said, maybe minus 2. So even though I see 3R squared minus 2, my calculator sees 3 times 3 squared minus 2. And it will calculate that for me. And that's it. So now you guys have kind of gotten some experience with all the different strategies. Go ahead and start that worksheet up.